What is going on YouTube? I'm Prison Arms here, and I'm bringing you a gameplay commentary on the map Stadium, playing some domination. I go 41-6 with the Commando Red Dot. Today is Scientific Sundays, and the topic for today is evolution. Now, when most people hear the word evolution, they think, it's false, it's not real, it's just made up, God did it, and things like that. And for people who are scientifically literate, know that that is not the case, and there's a lot of evidence for evolution. And so let me start out with this. Okay, this gets on my nerves when people say this. Well, it's just a theory. No, it's really not. So let me explain to you kind of what a theory is. The difference between a hypothesis and a theory. Okay, so if you have a problem, let's say we have a fact, like if I had a pen in my hand, this is a pen. Okay, that's your why is this a pen? What makes it a pen? How's the pen made? Blah 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 blah. Then you say, well, maybe this happened to the pen, and this came from crude oil to make the plastic around the pen and whatever. Well, that's your hypothesis. Now you have to, once you do experiments and say, let's look into this. How was it made? How was this done? How was the ink made? How did it put it back together? How was the machines, that made it? How do they work and stuff like that? Then once you come up with a strong answer to that, then you say that is a theory. That's how you say, well, this pen is this because this happened, and it got the plastic from here, and then the ink was made, then the cartridge that the ink goes in, and they had the little tip. That's a theory. If you had that all through and it can be tested over and over and over and proven, that is a theory. Okay, just because you say that, well, it's just a theory, doesn't mean it's false. If it was a hypothesis, maybe would be false, because if you say, the pen maybe popped out of the sky and just evolved one day, or not evolved, he just spontaneously landed on Earth, and he's walking around with legs, and then somebody picked him up and chopped his, ate his legs off and fried him up. Then you know what that is? It's not a theory. It's a hypothesis, and it's wrong, and you cannot test that. You cannot say, yeah, the legs, somebody picked him up and eat his legs off and fried him up. And no, see, that's not a theory. That's a hypothesis. Evolution is a theory. Okay, it doesn't mean it's false. It just means it's been tested, and we have all kind of evidence, which I'll get to in a minute. This is kind of gonna be a lengthy commentary because it is 9 minutes long. This gameplay is, so it's gonna be a little bit longer than my quantum mechanics that I was only 6 minutes. So let's kind of get into the history of evolution and where it came from and stuff like that. I just want to get to that theory and hypothesis off my chest, just to get that straight. Anyway, so we have a guy, his name is Darwin. If you ever took any kind of science class and you learned about evolution, we have Darwin. He basically went to the Galapagos Islands, and he saw that these finches in the Galapagos Islands, he went to some islands and the beak was longer, and he went to other islands and they were shorter, and he said, oh, well, maybe the other species before them evolved and some had longer and they survived, and the beak got longer so they could better they could get in the ground and get worms in these islands. But the other islands, they didn't need that long beak because most of their food wasn't in the ground, and that's how they got to reproduce and be more and spread their genes on through and survive as a whole. You know what I'm saying? So he came up with this, and that's kind of the basis for evolution. Is him writing in his journal about the it's called The Origin of the Species, is the name of the book that he wrote on evolution. So as we get more advanced in technology and in science, we figure out, wow, this guy is right. I mean, look at look at humans, look at the how the layers of the earth, look at how stuff gets more complex and complex. That's another thing. Most people say, well, the second law of thermodynamics disproves evolution. It does not. The second law of thermodynamics only means that can only apply to a closed circuit or closed system. On Earth, evolution is a open system because we have asteroids and other things that bring it in. So basically, that cannot disprove. And basically, the second law of thermodynamics is basically saying that saying that stuff can't go from unorder to more order. That's amazing, but it's got to do with thermodynamics and tendency over time, and but it cannot not apply to evolution because it only applies to a closed circuit. That's kind of the scheme of psychological thermodynamics. But anyway, as we get more advanced, we show that stuff actually does get stronger, and I mean honestly makes sense, right? Just think about it. Well, if I'm stronger than you, I can get more food. I can run from my my attackers that's trying to kill me. I can run faster. I can beat them, or I could kill them, and I could pass my genes on. That makes sense. Like, why would it not? But people's like, well, there's no proof for it. There is proof. We have micro evolution, which is, if you've watched some of my videos before, I was in the hospital for MRSA, which is a staph infection that is immune to most antibiotics. So you could basically say, well, there you go, right there. In MRSA, it was a staph infection that, as we gave antibiotics and as it spread, the antibiotics would kill it. Well, now it became immune and evolved and has mutations to stop, and where that antibiotics isn't affected anymore, and it can reproduce and spread to other hosts and live on the skin and live longer and not go extinct. You see what I'm saying? So there we go. That's another proof. MRSA, right there. Just like penicillin when it was discovered, you cannot use the same formula for penicillin when it was discovered than you can now, because if you try to use it now, it wouldn't work, because the bacteria and all the viruses have evolved to that. That's why every 15 years we have to create new antiviruses and stuff like that to stop the growth of bacteria and viruses, because they evolve. I mean, there you go. You have microevolution. Most I'm not saying religious people are bad in any way. I do not believe in religion, and I'll do a commentary on that about my religion. Well, I don't have a religion, about my atheism and stuff like that, and I'll go into that if y'all want to hear about that. It's probably going to have a long gameplay, maybe 2 gameplays in that, but I believe science can explain anything, but you cannot say that God created it or whatever, because if something tries to explain everything, cannot explain anything. So if you say did God done it, why should you worry about it? See, that's laziness. You shouldn't say that. It just kind of makes me mad that you want to say that something we have proof for, like evolution, is false, and it's not. Like I just said, we have microevolution. I mean, and we also have I'm gonna have to go really scientific nerd on y'all. There's this, our closest ancestors are the chimpanzee, ape, and stuff like that. They have 48 pairs of chromosomes. We have 46 pairs of chromosomes. We get half and half from our mom and our dad. Okay, so basically, now one of the genetics was like, hey, this is not too long ago. After they completed the Human Genome Project, that means they had all the human genes laid out. They showed that they said, well, there had to be a common ancestor between humans and apes and the other things. And they looked and they said there should be a gene or a chromosome that split in two, where the on the other two is a common ancestor, and with humans it should have come into one where that common ancestor was. And they showed on the 13th chromosome, I think, that it actually came together as one and split off, and now we have 2 less chromosomes than our ancestors, and that proves that we have a common ancestor. I know this is kind of confusing. It's kind of hard to explain while you're watching me play Call of Duty, but no, this is kind of it wasn't that much in depth, but I just want to say thank you for watching. Please comment, rate, subscribe. It helps me out a lot. If you have any suggestions for topics I should do, please leave in the comments section below. I'll see you in the next video.